Every morning, Marcus Green walked the same route through the small town of Maple Creek. He wore a faded blue jacket, the kind that had seen too many winters, and carried an old backpack that looked ready to fall apart. The people on Main Street knew him well, or at least, they thought they did. "Here he comes again," whispered the barista at the coffee shop, glancing through the window. "Crazy Marcus," muttered a teenager, recording a video as Marcus picked up empty cans from the sidewalk and tucked them into his bag. No one knew where he went after that. They just saw him day after day, for years, collecting trash, bottles, bits of scrap metal, and sometimes even broken toys. To them, he looked like a man who had lost his mind. Someone with no purpose. A ghost of a life gone wrong. But Marcus never said a word. He just smiled. The truth was, life hadn't been kind to him. He used to work at a local factory, strong, proud, and dependable, until an accident left him with a limp and a deep scar across his leg. He lost his job, his savings, and eventually, his wife left, taking their little girl with her. That's when Marcus started walking. At first, it was just to clear his mind. But one day, while sitting by the old riverbank, he saw a plastic bottle floating by, then another, and another. The water that once ran clear when he was a boy now looked like a dumping ground. He thought about his daughter, Layla, and how she used to skip rocks there. And something inside him shifted. He decided he'd clean it, not just the river, but the whole town. No one hired him. No one asked him to. But Marcus believed if he did one small good thing every day, maybe one day, it would matter. So he walked every morning, every evening, gathering cans, bottles, old wires, and anything that could be sold or reused. He'd carry them home to his little shed by the edge of town. There, under a single hanging bulb, he sorted, cleaned, and repaired what he could. Over time, the shed became more than a place for junk. It became a quiet workshop filled with small creations. Wind chimes made from bottle caps, bird feeders from plastic jugs, toy cars made from scrap metal. But the townspeople never saw that. They only saw the man with the limp and the dirty hands. "Should have left town years ago," said one man. "Poor guy," said another. "Don't feel bad," said the mayor, "some folks just don't get back up." Marcus didn't need their pity. He just kept walking, humming softly to himself, eyes focused on the ground. Then one morning, something unexpected happened. As he reached the park, the same park where kids played and parents picnicked, Marcus saw a little girl crying near the swings. Her kite had gotten tangled high in a tree. Without thinking twice, Marcus dropped his bag, pulled a small folding ladder from it, and climbed carefully despite his limp. He freed the kite, smiled, and handed it back to her. Her mother, watching from a distance, came over with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're so kind." Marcus nodded, smiled, and walked away. The next day, the mother told the story at the local coffee shop. For the first time in years, people weren't laughing, they were curious. "Marcus helped your daughter?" "Yeah," she said. "He was gentle, and he called the kite beautiful." And for the first time, someone looked out the window as Marcus passed and didn't mock him. They just watched. And wondered. The story of the man who helped the little girl spread quietly through Maple Creek. At first, it was just a few kind words, a whisper between mothers, a post on the town's Facebook page. "That man everyone calls Crazy Marcus? He helped my daughter today. He's not what people think." For a while, people talked, and then life went on. Marcus still walked the same streets, still picked up bottles and scraps. But something had changed. Now, instead of laughter, there was silence. Curious eyes followed him from store windows. The same teenagers who once made videos for laughs now filmed him with wonder. "Yo, he's building something," one of them said one afternoon, peeking through the trees near Marcus's small house. Behind the crooked fence, the shed buzzed with quiet sounds: the rhythmic tap of a hammer, the hum of a small generator, the faint melody of an old gospel song playing from a dusty radio. Inside that shed, Marcus worked like a man possessed. He sorted every bottle, straightened every nail, and polished every piece of scrap until it shone. The walls were lined with little creations, things he'd made from what others threw away. A lamp built from an old mason jar. Tiny windmills that turned gently when the breeze blew through the cracks. Toy cars and wooden animals painted with bright, hopeful colors. But in the middle of the room stood something much larger, covered with an old blue tarp. Every night after his walk, Marcus would stand before it, hands trembling slightly, as if in prayer. He whispered to himself, "Almost there, Layla. Just a little more." No one knew that the project had started years ago, the day he lost his job and his family. His daughter, Layla, had always dreamed of having a playground of her own. She used to draw little pictures of slides and swings, handing them to Marcus after dinner, saying, "Daddy, one day I want to build a park where everyone can play, even kids who don't have toys." When Marcus lost everything, that dream became his reason to keep going. Every can he collected, every bottle he sold, every dollar he saved, all went into that secret plan. He'd been saving materials, bit by bit, to build a playground for the town's children made entirely from recycled scrap. He didn't want to tell anyone. He wanted it to be a gift. One afternoon, while Marcus was working, he heard footsteps outside. When he opened the door, a young man stood there nervously, one of the teens who used to mock him. Hey, Mr. Marcus," he said, scratching his head. "I wanted to return this." He held out an old wrench Marcus had left near the riverbank. Marcus smiled softly. "Thank you, son. Appreciate that." The boy hesitated, peeking past the old man into the shed. His eyes widened. "Whoa, did you make all this?" Marcus nodded. "Just trying to make something beautiful from what's been thrown away." The boy's expression changed. Something in him shifted, a mix of shame and awe. He swallowed hard. "Can I help?" Marcus chuckled. "You sure about that? It's dirty work." The boy shrugged. "Guess I owe you some." And just like that, Marcus wasn't alone anymore. The boy, his name was Tyler, came every weekend. He helped clean, paint, and carry supplies. Over time, others joined: a retired carpenter, a teacher, even the barista who used to call him Crazy Marcus. Soon, that little shed became a workshop full of laughter and purpose. Then came the day Marcus had been waiting for. The blue tarp was pulled away, revealing a collection of colorful metal arches, swings made from strong cables, slides shaped from smoothed scrap, and benches built from old planks of wood. The pieces were ready, all that was left was to assemble them in the old empty lot by the river. That night, Marcus walked to the riverbank alone. He looked at the reflection of the moon in the dark water and whispered, "Tomorrow, Layla. Tomorrow I'll finish it." His eyes glistened. He reached into his pocket and took out a small, crumpled drawing, a child's picture of a playground. Her handwriting was still clear. "For everyone." Marcus smiled through tears. "For everyone," he repeated. The next morning, something incredible happened. As Marcus limped toward the river lot, he stopped in disbelief. Dozens of people were already there: Tyler, the carpenter, the teacher, the barista, and even the mayor. They had trucks, tools, paint, and wood. Tyler ran up to him, grinning. "Mr. Marcus, we couldn't wait. We're building it today, all of us." Marcus's eyes filled. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. He simply nodded, his heart pounding with gratitude. That day, for the first time in years, the whole town came together for him. And as the sun dipped behind the hills, the first frame of the playground stood tall against the sky. The sun rose warm and golden over Maple Creek. For once, the old river lot once filled with trash and broken glass was alive with noise and laughter. Children ran across the grass, chasing each other with paintbrushes in their hands. Parents set up tables, music played softly from a speaker, and everywhere you looked, people were working together. At the center of it all stood Marcus Green, wearing his same old blue jacket, watching quietly as his dream came to life. The man everyone had mocked, ignored, or pitied, was now the reason the entire town had come together. "Hey Marcus," shouted Tyler, the teenager, waving from the slide frame. "Does this go here?" Marcus smiled. "Yeah, son, that's perfect. Just make sure the bolts are tight." For hours, people worked side by side. The air smelled of sawdust, fresh paint, and hope. The mayor came by, rolling up his sleeves, surprising everyone. "Didn't think I'd be building playgrounds today," he joked. Marcus chuckled softly. "Never too late to start doing something good." The mayor paused, then nodded. "Guess you're right about that." By midday, the playground had taken shape, swings hanging steady, slides gleaming in the sun, benches lined neatly under the old oak trees. Children watched in excitement, their laughter echoing across the river. But there was one thing left, the final piece Marcus had been saving. He reached into his shed one last time and pulled out a small wooden sign. On it, in faded but careful letters, were the words, "Layla's Park for Everyone." Tyler and the others helped him carry it to the entrance. When they set it in the ground, the crowd went quiet. Someone asked softly, "Who's Layla?" Marcus looked at the sign for a long time before answering. "My daughter," he said quietly. "She used to draw pictures of a park like this. Said she wanted a place where every kid could play, even the ones who didn't have toys." A hush fell over the crowd. Some people looked down, tears welling in their eyes. The same folks who had once laughed at him now couldn't even meet his gaze. Marcus continued, his voice trembling. "She's grown now. Moved away. But this was her dream. I just wanted to finish it for her." Then he smiled, a small, tired smile that carried years of pain and peace. "I guess. I just didn't know I'd have to do it alone for so long." The mayor stepped forward, his voice thick. "You weren't alone, Marcus. We were just too blind to see you." Someone began clapping. Then another. Soon, the sound spread until the whole park echoed with applause, not out of pity, but respect. Marcus lowered his head, humbled, his hands trembling. He had spent years being invisible, and now, the entire town saw him for who he truly was. A man who turned broken things into something beautiful. That evening, as the sun dipped low, the children got to play for the first time. Their laughter filled the air, pure and unrestrained. Marcus sat quietly on a bench, his cane leaning beside him, watching them run, climb, and swing. Tyler sat next to him. "You did it, Mr. Marcus." Marcus shook his head gently. "We did it." The boy smiled. "Guess so. But you started it." They sat there in silence for a while, watching the sky turn orange and purple. Then Marcus took out a small photograph from his jacket pocket, a picture of a little girl holding a crayon drawing. "That's Layla," he said softly. "She used to tell me, 'Daddy, even the smallest hands can build something big.' I didn't understand it back then, but now I do." Tyler looked at him, eyes glistening. "She'd be proud of you." Marcus nodded slowly. "I hope so." As night fell, lanterns flickered on around the park. Families stayed late, unwilling to leave. For the first time in years, the town of Maple Creek felt whole again, united by the kindness of one man who had never given up, even when no one believed in him. Before leaving, the mayor stood before everyone and cleared his throat. "From this day on," he announced, "the town of Maple Creek will celebrate the first Saturday of every June as Marcus Green Day. A day to remind us that sometimes the quietest people are doing the loudest good. The crowd cheered, tears streaming, flashlights glowing. Marcus stood frozen, overwhelmed, his eyes wet but shining. He had never wanted recognition, only peace. And in that moment, as children ran beneath the stars and laughter filled the air, he felt it at last. But later that night, as he locked up his shed, Marcus paused. He glanced at the half-empty shelves, the worn tools, the scraps still waiting to be used. And he whispered, "One more project, Layla. Just one more." Because Marcus knew hope doesn't end when one dream is built. It begins again, in something new. 10 years passed in the small town of Maple Creek. The river now ran clear. The once empty lot by the water had become the heart of the town, Layla's Park, a place where children's laughter filled the air every day. The benches had faded a little. The paint on the swings chipped from use. But the spirit of the place, the feeling that hope lived there, never faded. At the entrance, beneath the wooden sign that read Layla's Park for everyone, someone had added a brass plaque. In loving memory of Marcus Green, the man who built beauty from broken things. Marcus had passed peacefully 3 years earlier. He'd spent his last day like any other, walking the streets with his old backpack, picking up bits of scrap, smiling at everyone he met. When word spread that Marcus was gone, the whole town came together again, not out of sorrow, but gratitude. Hundreds showed up at his funeral. Children laid toy windmills and bottle cap flowers on his grave, small echoes of his creations. The mayor spoke through tears. He never asked for help, never wanted fame. He just wanted to leave the world better than he found it. And he did. Tyler, the boy who once mocked him, stood in the crowd, now a grown man with a construction company of his own. He held a little girl's hand, his daughter, and whispered, "That man taught me what it means to build something that lasts." Every year, on Marcus Green Day, the townspeople gathered at the park. They painted over the old swings, repaired the benches, and cleaned the riverbank just like Marcus used to. Children who had never met him still knew his name. To them, Marcus wasn't just a man, he was a story, a symbol of quiet goodness. One year, a local news station came to film a segment about the town's transformation. They interviewed Tyler, now wearing the same kind of worn blue jacket Marcus used to wear. "Tell us about Marcus Green," the reporter asked. Tyler smiled softly. He was the kind of man who didn't wait for the world to change. He just started where he was, with what he had. "He taught me that you don't need much to make a difference, just a little heart and a lot of faith." The camera panned across the park, the children running, the laughter, the trees swaying gently, and for a moment, it almost felt like Marcus was still there, watching quietly from a bench. That evening, after the celebration, Tyler stayed behind. The crowd had gone home, the lights dimmed, and the park was quiet except for the rustle of leaves. He walked to the old shed still standing at the edge of town, preserved just as Marcus left it. Dust hung in the air, and the smell of wood and metal lingered like a memory. On the workbench sat a half-finished creation, a small sculpture made from scrap metal and glass. It was shaped like a heart with a tiny inscription carved into the base. "Keep building." Tyler ran his fingers over the words, feeling the rough edges. He smiled through tears. "Don't worry, Mr. Marcus," he whispered. "We will." The next day, the townspeople gathered again, not because of tragedy, but because of inspiration. Tyler had made an announcement. He was starting something new, the Marcus Green Foundation, dedicated to teaching young people how to recycle, build, and create beauty from waste. He planned to open a community workshop, a bigger version of Marcus's shed, where kids could learn to craft toys, repair old things, and design projects for their neighborhood. The first class had 10 kids. They called it the Builders Club. On the wall of the new workshop hung a framed photo of Marcus smiling softly, a bit of paint on his hands, his eyes kind and humble. Beneath it, the same words appeared again. "Keep building." Years later, a little girl with curly hair and bright eyes stood beside that photo. She tugged on her dad's sleeve, Tyler's daughter, and asked, "Daddy, was he real?" Tyler knelt down, smiling. "Yeah, baby. He was real. He just believed that even broken things could still be useful. Even people." She thought about that for a second, then asked, "So, what are we building?" Tyler looked around at the room full of tools, laughter, and light. "Hope," he said softly. "We're building hope." That night, as the stars shone over Maple Creek, the wind rustled through Layla's park. The swings creaked gently. The river whispered against the stones. And for those who listened closely, it almost sounded like a man humming a quiet gospel tune, the same song Marcus used to play while he worked in his shed. He was gone, but not really. Because hope like his doesn't die. It multiplies in every act of kindness, in every child who learns to build, in every person who decides to do good even when no one's watching. Marcus Green had been mocked for years. But in the end, he built something stronger than metal or wood. He built a legacy of love.